I'm calling our special meeting to order. Today is May 9. The time is what time now? It's 9:36. 9:36. Okay, roll call please.
Yvonne is here.
Okay,
Sunny Claus is here.
Third Charter.
and I'm here. Okay, we have a quorum. We'll go ahead and start. Okay, new business is now at going back to it. So last work session, I have presented to you an addendum for the approved compensation schedule to add a pay scale for personnel assistant, personnel officer, and procurement officer. This is to address the long time unfilled position. This new pay scale is 10% closer to the GPP mid 2014 pay schedule. This would somehow hopefully attract more applicants for a position that has been posted for a long time and has not been filled, the personnel officer.
So
I may
both,
ask.
both personnel and procurement, is that, I put 8% for procurement?
It is,
That was the recommended.
the recommended is 10%.
Then
Procurement officer, personnel
Oh,
officer is
both
also 10%.
10%.
Yes, and then we
Okay.
added the personal assistant, which we don't have.
Is the 9%?
It's 9%. 9 point something is close to the 2014 wage act, competitive wage.
Okay, the question I have, when we approve the personnel, I wasn't there, but when the board of trustees approved the salary pay scale, right, increases, was that also 10%?
No, so it remained from before. It was not even touched because at that time there's no one holding that close to position.
If I'm not mistaken, it was done during
July 2020.
Yeah, I think Judy.
Right, but-
It was already.
Yeah, but the question I have is that in 2022, what was the percentage of increase for the other classification of positions?
Majority is 12% compared, like for example, teachers. Teacher one from the Wage Act 2014 is 12% because the difference of our old schedule is 25% different from the Wage Act of 2014. But that's already only from 2014. During that time, July 2022, there was a 20% increase for teachers and administrators. So the board approved the July 2022, which is just 15% to match the 2014 wage act. So right now we're still behind
I
technically
know,
because
for in comparison to
Versus
the, I just want to make sure that the 10% increase for those two positions are consistent with the other classification of employee positions, because we don't want that later on the employees may say, hey, you gave these people 10% increase and me only 8% in 2022 or 2023. So the application of the rule, like, we want to make sure it's consistent across the board.
Yes.
Unless there is a strong justification why one classification of position merits a higher salary
And I
increase.
think that's dependent on the position title, and it must be consistent with the duties and responsibilities. So you
morning, Madam
can't
Chair.
compare
Yeah.
every alike if we're
Go ahead,
not,
session.
you know.
We
Close this?
are already.
Yeah, go ahead, so that you are
Okay.
not or not. We need to keep those two items in our mind, that when we approve that the position titles and the job descriptions are aligned.
Yeah, another, if I may, another thing, the way I look at it is, it's being justified because of the period of time. It's being announced and no response.
Right.
Change of mind, that's another justification. And like you also mentioned, is the fairness
Yeah.
to everyone else.
Right.
Okay,
So.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
no,
Sala.
no,
Madam Chair will take over now.
What did you-
We're just discussing the position. Mr.
no,
Tagala
no,
was talking about the positions
The
that
position,
were.
just to make
approved
sure
earlier.
that the 10% increase for both positions are consistent with the other classification of employees, when the board, because I wasn't there, but when the board approved it, and I believe in 2022. So, and that was clarified.
The key here is the budget process, just to make sure it supports not only the justification of the position, but you have money to support the adjustment of salaries. And I think our fiscal and the CEO have always make sure that there's provision for that. That is actually, so you just, I just know that it can be supported financially as far as the justification of the position, as they are entitled to it. Just make sure all the important process are done, especially the qualifications. Because we're not gonna be able to move people around just because of they know certain board members or because they're protected by certain whatever. We don't like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly other jurisdiction, but
Yeah.
hopefully not in our case, that we'd be more objective.
I think that's what I brought up, that we're doing all the increase and our current budget that's approved, and it's supported.
Yes, definitely. And when the board also approved the compensation schedule, including the, all the teachers, everything back in July 2022, what was factored in is not just the budget, but also the sustainability. Because at that time, the board also approved the, step one, yearly increase. Yearly increase. After that, the board
they-
also
as they-
approved
as they
that
qualify,
they
yeah.
increase, they are qualified to a yearly increase increment. Yes. As long, dependent on their yearly value.
And I think this effort supports our desire to maintain and retain, we need to retain our employees. And this is one way of, because if you look at the data of how many people have exited, hopefully the salary, the schedule of some of these positions will help retain those employees, especially the good ones.
But overall, what is the reason why they do not stay with us?
I have, as I have shared with you, the 4 years exit interview. We digitize all the 4 years exit interviews of the employees beginning 2021, school year 2021. And
I think we can discuss this.
later on.
Yeah.
But
We don't-
it
we
was
just
shared.
adjourn.
It was shared that number one reason from all 4 years is career
Advances.
advancement. Number two
Career
is
advancement.
health and timing service. We'll give you further, we can discuss, but can we proceed? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Officer, go for the question.
And anyone?
Yeah. I so move to approve the addendum to the 2022 compensation schedule for the following positions: personnel assistant, personnel officer / HR officer, and procurement officer. Do I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Good vote. Aye.
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 Motion
Yeah,
carried.
so we can now.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you so much.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was a fast meeting, let me just.
And everybody have
Great.
your minute from last.
Yeah, masarap.
Oh, yes, with you, and the good thing about it is Anne is really constantly looking at the.
Yeah,
budget,
yeah.
and we
It
really
was
have some
very
money.
nice to have her because she's.
Oh, it's.
she's
Recording
constantly,
stopped.